We are actually. Let me make sure our audio is okay.
Level,
All
level,
right,
level.
I am ready to go whenever you are.
All right.
All right, audio's good. Okay.
All right.
Uh, you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect, where we reclaim enthusiasm from the entropy of our lives.
Enthusiasm, the side effect of decay, both moral and physical.
Try different things. There's so many podcasts I listen to that they immediately start off with like "Hello and welcome to the podcast." So I'm trying something slightly different. We'll see if this changes next time. Maybe see if I'll have a collection of things. Because I meant to actually like for this podcast, I meant to like have things slightly change over time. So I meant to have the opening reading that you do. I was going to rewrite it several times, but then I was like, it's fine. Like there's still like problems I guess I have with it, but I didn't know how to solve them. So yeah, it's fine. And then like I've actually only done 2 recordings of the opening music that plays. And I was going to change that as well, but on the second time I recorded, I kind of like knocked it out of the park. So that's the one it's going to be. So if you listen to the first episode, it's the same, pretty much the same song. It's just like slightly different. Because like
It's like the first 3 episodes of Miami Vice without the guitar riff.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see if that happens. Anyway, so Verhoeven Effect, where we watch. Well, currently in the season 1, we are watching network television because me and Nathan do not watch network television. We are watching police procedurals. We have 2014's NCIS New Orleans, 2008's The Mentalist, and 1984's Miami Vice. As always, we start with NCIS New Orleans. We have season 1, episode 21, You'll Do. Original air date April 28th, 2015, CBS Tuesday. LaSalle's brother, Cade, is accused of murder, and LaSalle is determined to prove his innocence in spite of all the evidence against him. LaSalle is officially off the case, so he helps ATF agent Percy take down an arms dealer. Showrunner Gary Glasberg, written by Sam Humphrey, and directed by Ulrich Riley.
Yes, this was a rangy episode. It's kind of... It starts off with Cade...
well, it's a flashback to LaSalle and Cade's childhood.
Yeah, in 1998 or something. Like that made me feel old. Like, oh, they're like young teenagers then. I was, in my 20s. That's when my Michigan adventure started.
Men in Black came out.
Yeah. Blast from the past. So yeah, Chris and Christopher and Cade they had a flashback to them talking, about, well, the one, we had Cade's, the dog he found.
Yeah.
And later on in the show, we find out he nursed it to health because everyone wrote the dog off. And Christopher was talking about marrying a girl that he was, he was gonna marry that girl someday, the woman he's dating now in the series.
Yeah, they cut to him like in bed with Savannah. So
yeah, like his childhood dream came true.
And then we go from there. Like Cade gets LaSalle gets a worrying phone call from Cade, and they show up in just some parking lot by the water. And then there's a dead woman in a truck. Wendy, it's a dead woman in the truck.
I was hoping it'd be a lighthearted Cade thing, like he had, carpeted his ceiling or something. Like, I need you to come over. I'm having an episode, but no, this was to start off pretty bad.
So I will get. There's some credit to give it to. It kind of breaks tradition here, and it's an interesting way, but it doesn't pull together at the end. But like what you do is like we immediately have the misdirect, like in the opening of the show.
Yeah.
So there's like this, there is this tension that goes on because basically the further the show goes on, the less likely it is that he's not guilty. So there is that tension throughout. But then how they alleviate everything is so contrived and convenient that it doesn't work.
Satisfying, yeah.
But from a structure point and from the start, it's like it's a good idea. So
Yeah.
yeah. Also, I wrote in here. It's like, well, she's not in. Well, presumably, Wendy, the dead woman, is not in the Navy, so this isn't in the NCIS's jurisdiction. But like, I guess Pride kind of works his way into have it be a joint investigation, where basically like they're going out and doing interviews alongside the New Orleans PD. So at least
they've made things like that happen a few times in this season, always under the implication that the NOPD is broke and they'll just like welcome any help, which I think that might actually be true.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they can always find their way. Because I was thinking that immediately, was like, how is NCIS going to investigate the murder of this woman who was, Cade's, LaSalle's brother, who has serious mental issues. It's like, how are they going to wangle that in? Because she wasn't in the Navy. So, but we find out, like, they find a way.
Yeah.
And not, unfortunately, not an unbelievable way. It's like, yeah, it's
well, also seems like, well, here we have it that like that it seems to be, and also like that the morgue is also like it's separate from the NCIS office, and it's like, oh, they're not just working for NCIS, they're probably doing lab work for all law enforcement in that area.
Yeah, it's like a combo morgue.
Yeah, so like Wade isn't just doing autopsies for Navy personnel. She's doing it probably for the whole city. We just never see it.
Yeah, because it would be the Navy would be a very violent service if they just had like a woman, even near a large city, constantly doing autopsies on dead Navy personnel. It's like, how bad is the Navy to be in? It's like a slaughterhouse in that place. But yeah, it's a joint morgue.
Yeah,
which probably a good. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I mean, that was the reason. I believe that was the reason for the reason they chose Las Vegas to be the original, to be the city for the original CSI is because that the laboratory they have there is like the second biggest laboratory in America, next to like the FBI laboratory for criminal investigation. Okay. So that's why they chose it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. But also like they wouldn't exclusively do lab work for Las Vegas police departments and stuff. They'd be doing stuff from all over like the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have Cade's prints are on the rope that strangled Wendy. They go to interview Wendy's mom, and she immediately seems like a jerk. But I know her daughter just died, but it seemed weird in this instance.
She seemed like a lady. She seemed like a rough booze kind of gal. It's like life's not been pretty, and then my daughter gets strangled to death, and I didn't like her boyfriend. So
yeah,
it's like she seemed like someone who's reacting.
But they come back to her, so that makes sense. Later on. So because LaSalle's close to the investigation, Pride sends him on another assignment, so not to have him interfere with the investigation, which of course it doesn't work.
Yeah, it goes nowhere, and you knew it. He's like working with Sonia, but he's like just always looking off into the distance, and it's like, you're my backup on a dangerous, insane arms deal. Like, get your head in the game a little bit, and then she consoles him by being like, a lot of my family's in prison, and they all did it. You just got to accept it and move on. And even he's like, thanks for the help. He's really, really making me feel better. She's like, yeah, you got to be realistic.
But also there's essentially a thing, because like the whole side hustle thing here for Pride is a whole bait fish thing. It's a part of the bait fish investigation. So he's like handing off like, all right, you do my insane thing that I'm stuck on, that I'm too close to. You go do that for me, and then I'll do the thing that's too close to you. So
I like how they all freely admit, because LaSalle's like, what if it was your brother? And Pride is like, I'd break every rule too. I will not understand how you feel. It's just you're not going to help anything by doing it. Like, so he's like establishing. It's like, oh yeah, I get it. And if the roles were reversed, oh yeah, I'd be chomping at the bit to get at this. So that works.
They go back to
how the main characters interacted in this over something real serious and it wasn't like an episode where it's like, oh, just another day. It's like they did write it well, where it's like, yeah, these people have emotional investment in this.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of like this thing happens in pretty much every police procedural, and they bother to do like, well, what would really happen? I mean, they still get away from it and go back to the drama, which is what people want, but they're at least like, there's procedures here, and they at least attempt procedures.
Yeah, they acknowledge that they exist.
Yeah, yeah, they're not just like we know what the procedure is supposed to be, but because we're close to these people, we'll just break the rules and then pretend we never broke the rules.
Right.
Everybody looks the way, and then nobody's the wiser. If it all ends up in the win column, then it's okay. We have Wade investigating she's doing the autopsy, and it just ends up being like it's probably a bunch of like sadistic sex stuff, but mostly that she was raped and killed. And then like Sebastian is like, they have the New Orleans police officer there, and like Sebastian has to reluctantly talk about how like if he combined alcohol with his psych meds, he could black out and be violent, which seems like
he tries to downplay that horribly.
Yeah.
He's
but like, also like
I don't want to say Kate or
LaSalle's not gonna like me. Yeah,
LaSalle already doesn't like you, so.
But also isn't just like it's like just because it's like a possible side effect. It's like people are different. All these things like. So it just because it's a possibility doesn't make it like slam dunk, but oh well, whatever. We're building the drama. It's fine.
Well, remember that's why America's in the vaccine trouble it's in right now, because everyone's like, what about the 0.3 billion to 1 chance I might have heart trouble? It's like, well, that's why I'm not taking it. And the guy weighs more than me, and he's taking it every day. Like, oh yeah, that's going to be the thing that puts you over the top. Okay, we're not doing this here. Sorry, sidetrack. But yeah, people always play the odds.
And LaSalle breaks into Wendy's apartment to search for clues, making everything
immediately destroy the investigation.
Yeah, everything he finds will be completely inadmissible, which they admit to that, so at least that's good.
Yeah, they don't like, oh, we got a waiver from this judge who's okay with this completely improper. They didn't even try that.
It was kind of fun. Like they used phone stack to find a hidden camera, which is interesting. I don't know if it's true, but it's interesting.
Cool idea.
Yeah. It's different. I wrote reality versus TV logic, and I forget what I was talking about. Maybe. Oh well.
Maybe that was it.
So we have this other guy named Gory who was like in college with Wendy at the same time, and he was very pervy on her. Maybe there was a restraining order filed, or he just left the college. I can't remember, and it just got covered up. And that's they find the camera in her apartment, and this is the guy who set up the camera to spy on her. So he's immediately creepy and weird. And he just hands over the footage, and like he's like, oh, this will absolve me and incriminate him, and he hands it over, and then they find out like it's doctored. But like the weird thing is like they look at the footage, and like the slam dunk that Wade did it is like he kind of just grabs Wendy's arms.
Yeah,
he doesn't even like shake her or throw her around. He's just like come on. But like
Sebastian uses old Zapruder film arguments to show how the film was doctored, which I like that.
Yeah, so then they chase down the guy again to like get his because he handed over edited footage, and so they want the raw footage, and then they have like the most ridiculous foot chase probably in the season.
It ends in a crocodile.
Yep.
Or an alligator. I'm sorry, an alligator.
Yeah, he just like they're running, and then there's a bike marathon going on that gets in their way.
And these people are in body armor with guns, and like the body armor says like police and all, and like these people on the bike like, hey, get out of the way, asshole. I don't think that's really what would happen, but you never know.
Yeah, then he tosses the computer, but he misses the water, so then Pride goes to go get it, and like, uh-oh, there's an alligator there for a few seconds, and he just grabs it and leaves.
which was silly but fun.
Yeah, it's like, why include it if you're not going to use it? Like, at least put the computer in the fucking alligator's mouth or something.
Yeah, make Pride have to pull out his revenge gun, shoot the alligator, and it blows it in half. For some unlikely reason.
And then, like, you like end before the commercials, like, I don't think we get that footage now. And you come back from, it's like, oh, well, the hard drive's intact, everything's fine. Then Sebastian says to him, then Pride's like, I don't know how technology works.
What's a hard drive? Like, these people are stupid, or these federal agents.
Is that like driving to Florida at night?
Yeah, drunk.
Oh yeah, there's this bit. What was it? Where Pride like interviews Cade, but like nothing really comes of it. It's just kind of like he is sympathized. Yeah, nothing gets revealed. It's just like Pride kind of just sympathizes with Cade.
And Cade also kind of indicates that, like, I don't know, maybe I did it. Like, that's being thrown. The whole episode is building towards this guy has almost come around himself to, like, maybe I did it. I don't know. I'm a crazy person. Crazy people do crazy things. And, which is like, I almost thought it's like, oh, is it going to be like, he did it? That's just going to be how it ends. But
yeah,
it wasn't. And it wasn't Creepy McCreepstick either, which I was like, oh, the second misdirect.
Yeah. Yeah, we come back. We have we come back to the arms deal, the side thing that Cade's working on with Percy.
Forgot about that.
And it's a Navy guy, enlisted Navy guy, who just has a bunch of like M9s and M16s just up for sale. Just robbing the Navy.
Guns with silencers and fully automatic weapons just thrown randomly into a trunk because, again, here's Hollywood. Like, that stuff's freely available, and I want $10,000.
Yeah, that seems pretty low.
100 weapons. It's like one of those guns is worth $10,000.
I mean, at least 1,500 at the base cost. You throw some silencers and scopes on there, you're getting up to $4,500.
Well, that's just like cost. I'm talking about getting that on the streets.
Yeah. I guess you'd up the price even if they're used.
Because if you have, we all know from the North Hollywood shootout, if you have fully automatic weapons, the police force essentially stops because they cannot fight that. But in Hollywood, like every other house has some kind of squad served assault weapon in it. It's like, no, those don't exist like that all over the place.
Even though those M16s, they wouldn't be fully automatic. They just, I guess if he was robbing from, I guess an armory would have like Navy SEAL stuff, which does have fully auto stuff. But like,
he's also calling them M16s, which that's like antiquated, isn't it?
No, well, I mean, there's different designations. Like what I was using was an M16A4, which is the fourth version of it of the M16 iteration in the military, which basically means it's the same, but it's slightly different, like trigger stuff. So it's like that's more reliable, and then it has like the quad rails with covers on them, so you can add anything you want to it, and it doesn't have the carrying handle anymore. It has a scope on top.
Oh, okay.
Those were M16A4s. Although you can get them with the carry handle because that's how I was trained to shoot, was with the old sight.
Oh, okay.
The old iron sights. Would you be surprised? Like, oh, I can shoot somebody in the head from 500 yards with this thing I can barely see through. It's like, yes.
All things are possible. You never know till you try.
Just stand completely still, and I'll aim at your waist and hit you in the head.
And hold something up that blows in the wind, so I know which.
Yeah, I know how to adjust the windage.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, that was actually for how many illegal M16s with silencers. He was also the guy to like prove that the silencers are cool. He just like grabs a gun and just shoots it off in the distance. It's like, because like I guess the silencers were an add-on, and it's like he wanted more money or something, or I can't remember, but it ends up being like a rip-off. She hands him the money, and then he basically pulls a gun on her, and then And then LaSalle comes out and pulls a gun on him, and he's like,
Which is why you always show up to a by yourself, alone, unarmed, with no backup. Because no one who would rip you off, you know. Guy who's got a lifetime of prison sentence worth of stuff in his trunk. That guy, he might not be up and up.
Well, it was funny because like for Percy to keep her undercover thing, when LaSalle comes up and he's like NCIS, she's like, what the hell is NCIS? And the Navy guy's like Naval Criminal Investigation Service. So she kept her cover. So
yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, the necklace on Wendy ends up being key because she didn't actually. It wasn't her necklace. It was like put there.
Because they saw from the footage that's like, oh, she wasn't wearing that.
Yeah, and then they find out. Then like Sebastian does like an extra detailed work on the drug work, and he finds out Cade was drugged. So that's what accounts for his
lapse of memory.
Yeah. Hold on. I have to remove comments. We have people trying to do weird things in their chat. Anyways. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, they do an extra detail work on the blood. It finds out, that's what accounts for his loss of memory. Then ends up being like some weird sex couple and some voodoo garbage, and like Brody's like at the house trying to trace down the necklace, compared to like some other like assaults in the area. Yeah, and they just because the only like sort of close connection is that it ends up being the guy at the bar who's a part of it, but that's like it doesn't explain anything.
Yeah, it seems to wrap kind of stupid. This is where it gets done. It's like, oh, the guy in the bar, the bartender really loves his psychotic voodoo girlfriend who just wants to drain people's energy, or it's all like, oh, okay, yeah, these people are weirdos. But there was like nothing to suggest this the first 40 minutes of the show.
Yeah, it just comes out of nowhere. But at least Brody, she gets captured again, but she handles herself really well and shoots everybody in the house. So, and it turns out the mom was lying about Cade, because at first she was like, yeah, I didn't like him. Of course he did it. And then she's like, well, actually, like her daughter or Wendy said that she was good to him. Yeah, it's just too many coincidences to be effective. It's like maybe Cade did do it, and then you have Gory, the creepy stalker, who it's like, well, obviously he did it, and then you have a third he's a misdirect as well, and your third final who actually did it is just some weird serial sex murder couple that just comes out of nowhere. Like the only thing the only thing that would kind of help it is if it's if somebody in the police department was involved, because they're at the beginning and then they'd be there at the end, but these people just kind of pretty much pop up out of nowhere to explain things.
Yeah, there's no investigation that leads to them except re-questioning the bartender because Sebastian did some drug work, but even then you're not expecting oh, that's going to be it.
Yeah. And this stuff is hard. I've read a script before about you have this great mystery that you start off with, but then there's no way to rationally explain it. So you have to use irrational explanations, and then people are I remember I was listening to other podcasts and they were mad about that Stephen King show, The Outsider. Because they're really enwrapped in the first 3 episodes, well, how did this guy do it? He was in 2 places at the same time. And then it's well, there's no rational explanation, so it's supernatural. And then he was completely oh, this is stupid because it's supernatural. It's there's no rational explanation. It's just a good setup.
Well, that was obviously that's missing the point of the show, and the characters is written that the lady who did the research is the ultimate in rationality. Whatever her autistic twist is, she only deals in facts, and she can prove things by making very unusual but proper connections based on the information. And she said the only explanation here is the unexplainable. And then she kind of creates what turned out to be the case because nothing else made sense. It was this like super Occam's razor type story.
Yeah.
But yeah, for people who thought it was like a murder mystery, which like, how did he rape and sodomize and just, rip that child apart? We got to figure out how. It's like, no, the sad part of it is he didn't do it. That he died for it. But yeah, he had nothing to do with it. So yeah, that was, anyway. Yeah, a lot of people misunderstand that show. They thought it was going to be a profound police procedural murder mystery. It's like, no, it's Stephen King. It's supernatural. But it's like, how would the people investigating it really react to the supernatural? And it's like, well, they'd figure it out eventually. I mean, if they had this one strange genius lady that could put it all together, but
yeah,
I don't know if those people exist. I think they do, but at least I would like to hope so.
So here,
supernatural comes for us, they can unravel it.
So here it's just like they have to come up to a conclusion and just kind of shoved in there, and they don't have a whole season to cover it. So yeah, just gotta have it in. So
yeah, so then it ends, but then it doesn't, because Baitfish shows up with the same silencer that the guy had from the Navy. I don't know if it was the same. It looked the same.
Yeah, and it's like Savannah's waiting for LaSalle. And then Baitfish shows up, and he's like, I need to give a message to
Pride.
Yeah,
your boss is what he says, or his boss or something. And he's like, you'll do, and you just see the barrel of the silencer, which is why I mentioned it. It's like, oh, it's the same silencer. The prop department's getting lazy. Or maybe there's a reason, I don't know. Because it was his deal that they were trying to disrupt. So I'm expecting a lot out of the next episode.
Well, yeah, I was like, oh, is she gonna? Oh yeah, what I write? She gonna be kidnapped or she get shot? And then I might be spoiled because as the streaming platform like shoves the credits in the corner, it gives you like a preview of the next episode, and it gives you a line of what the next episode's going to be, and it's like, okay, well, I think I might know what's going on next episode, but not completely sure. I haven't seen it yet, so don't know completely, but might be slightly spoiled on what happens. But yeah, that's because we only have 2 episodes left, so
yep.
So it looks like wonder if there's going to be a 2-parter conclusion to the season. So
I was curious about that myself, but I didn't want to look because as soon as I clicked on it to be like, after the so and so, it's like, oh no. Because some of the people that write these episode summaries, it's like, yeah, no spoilers, huh? It's like, good job.
Well, I mean, during the time they're watched, it's probably
they're not doing the same thing. But
although they would be doing like next week on on NCIS New Orleans, and they'd probably give you some preview, but it'd probably be a misdirect in a way. It's like, oh, everybody seems sad. I wonder what happened. And you find out like a dog died or something.
Yeah, they do a lot of like single shots of the camera pulling out and people staring into the middle distance. It's like, oh, the worst thing must have happened. And then you find out, oh no, it's.
Or the edit
died or something, yeah.
Or like somebody has a shock face, and then like conspicuously in the preview of the next episode, like there's one person isn't in any of the shots. It's like, oh, you're left to think somebody's died. It's good preview stuff. Trying to get you next week. Like, oh no, did they die? It's like, no, but we tricked you into watching next week's episodes.
You don't have to trick me. It's my job to watch it. I'll be there.
So for our second show, we have The Mentalist, Season 1, Episode 21, Misread, original air date May 5th, 2009, CBS Tuesday. While investigating the murder of a CEO, Patrick matches wits with a sexy con artist who was trying to get her hands on the secret stash of millions of dollars. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by Ken Woodruff, directed by Martha Mitchell. There's a suspected body at a private marina because they found some blood on a boat, and then the local PD just dumps off the case onto CBI. So
it was given like it was private property. It was their option or something.
Yeah.
High profile murder case. They didn't want to deal with it.
They didn't want to fumble it, so it's CBI's job. Which I guess makes sense. Also, it's a similar thing to what happened in the previous episode where it's like a quasi joint investigation, but really it's like they're just trying to take as much off their plate as they can. Rigsby is sick. Don't really know why. It doesn't really add anything to the episode, but oh well.
I think it was so later on someone could write him a prescription and Jane could have a
yeah, I guess that worked.
That's probably
well. He's like well. I mean, it works in some play in the first scene because he's like the first person to see the body because he's the only one that didn't go on the boat. So like, there's something there, but
yeah.
Anyways, Jim Goldbrand is the tech millionaire in the body. There's some blood in the boat. Jane silently stalks around and observes the boat, and he doesn't say anything for like the first 3 minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
There's kind of this cool part where it's like Lisbon is just like shadowing Jane, but she's on the boat and he's not, and they're like thinking the same thing. And then they like the anchor. It's like the boat's tied to the dock. Why do they need the anchor? It's like the anchor is the solution, and they raise up the anchor, and there's the body.
Yeah.
And then they got apparently Jim, that was the millionaire. He was staying at his drunk brother's house, Keith, who Jane suspects Keith immediately because he'll end up with the money. But that's just kind of a misdirect. But
yeah, he's just a degenerate musician.
Yeah,
and someone who doesn't mourn well. But you know, other than that, I think he's on a lot of drugs.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't come back, so it's like, well, we're done with him.
Yeah.
It's just the first misdirect. And then I guess I immediately called this. They go to the business, and there's a guy in the wheelchair, and I was just immediately suspected him because he'd be the least suspectable person. Yeah. So I wrote.
He says that later, yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote, "Will it be the wheelchair guy?" because he seems the least likely. So I did call that. I mean, I could have been wrong, but I wrote it down. It's like that's my call. Where was I in my notes? I lost where we are in the notes. Okay, Jane and Rigsby interviewed the psychiatrist's girlfriend, who's Dr. Brooke Harper. Jane seems suspicious of her because he concludes she isn't a doctor because she has legible handwriting, which is funny, but not necessarily like conclusive.
She, to the actor's credit, she didn't seem like a bad person. Like she was pretty convincing. As like she had a reason. Like, why are you at work the day your boyfriend's found dead? It's my patients need me, and I really don't mourn very well. And supposedly she's a psychiatrist, so it's like, well, maybe she knows that about herself.
Yeah,
seems to be very in control. We find out why, but
yeah. Then they go back to like pick her up to bring her into the station, and she like comically leaves through the window and escapes the CBI. While one of her patients is like, "I think I'm in the middle of a breakthrough," and then she's just gone.
Yeah.
And it's weird that she just kind of shoves stuff in her purse, and she takes like a photo with her, which I'm not sure what was on the photo or it was important. But she just
I was waiting for that to come up, and it didn't. So
yeah.
Maybe it was something that got discarded in editing.
I wrote here something like weirdly timely with a tech millionaire claiming personal finance as company capital and absolved from taxes and a divorce. So there's a lot of that today, right now. So it seems
very prescient today.
Yeah, because there's that thing where people are billionaires pretending to be like they're what's the word? It's not altruistic. What is it? They're being benevolent. They're being
like
benevolent.
Humanitarians all of a sudden.
Yeah, and either it's like something like we're giving to charity as a tax write-off, right? Or it's in this, and it's like we're not taking a salary this year because to give back to our employees, but really it's like, oh, like you have hundreds of millions of dollars in stock and you're not taking a salary, so then you don't have to technically pay taxes because you're not getting paid. But of course you're getting paid.
Yeah, we're not throwing money in the hat so Jim can buy tomato soup this week. Not taking a salary. This guy's still sitting on a yacht drinking carrots. It's just I don't know. I don't even know who that fools anymore. It's like, I don't think all those people are evil. I think most of them are, but it's like, why this song and dance? It would be like me saying, yeah, I'm not eating bacon this year because I'm worried about everyone's health, but I'll just eat all the other crap I eat besides bacon. It's like, aren't I a good person? It's like, no, you're still obviously fat and unhealthy. So yeah, it seems like I don't follow that logic. I guess it works in their circle of friends. So
Yeah. We have the ex-wife Catherine, who is a jerk.
yeah, there's another word for it, but we won't say it on this show.
I mean, I already swore, but it's alright. Less editing for me.
Well, I mean, I don't think the hard C is something that you out either. So
I do edit. I do edit out asshole, but like, so I would just say she is an asshole, but like in my notes, I kind of write as the mild language, so I don't say it on the podcast. But
yeah,
we're beyond the looking glass now, people. Yeah. Then there's
you got to think in 4 dimensions when it comes to our obscenity.
So there's just secret millions in the wind.
$10 million, something.
Yeah, which I thought was going to be like either like it was going to be like bearer bonds or like gold or something, but later on it's revealed to be a huge duffel bag, presumably full of money. We never see the money, but we do see the duffel bag. It's like, okay, that's probably the biggest duffel bag you get. I don't know if you can shove $10 million in there, but sure, at least that's good.
You can't. Go ahead, I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why. Rigsby seems to be better after the medicine from the fake doctor prescribed, which I don't think ever comes back. Because I figured that'd be a thing. I thought it was going to be something like whatever she prescribed was like a placebo or something, and he just felt better, but it doesn't end up being a thing. But so
she's not really a doctor, so he committed a crime by filling out a false...
Jane, oh yeah, they go to a backgammon club that the millionaire belonged to. It's fun, like this tech guy is just a millionaire, where it's like nowadays you just say he was a billionaire. So it's quaint. Jane cheats at backgammon with some like prince from like, I don't know, the Middle East or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that.
And then Cho makes him not take the money because Jane was cheating anyways.
Sort of cheating. He was manipulating the dice. So.
Yeah, he was just good at throwing dice and getting the result he wanted, which isn't really cheating. He didn't load the dice. He was just good at rolling dice.
Yeah, he didn't,
Like, if you can roll a 6 because you want to, that's not, like, your problem.
Okay, $10 million in $100 bills, which is the highest denomination you get, would weigh 227 pounds. So that 90-pound woman's not throwing that over her shoulder, running to the airport.
So Jane and Cho catch the con woman. There's a bit where like Jane describes the con woman, and he's basically describing himself because he was a con man. So
yeah,
it's a little bit of like the mirror on himself.
Well, I figured this would be another. Once I found out she was like some kind of Black Widow well, not really Black Widow, but just someone who liked to con people out of money. It's like, oh, Jane's gonna fall in love again. It's like, yeah, here's another psychopath for me to enjoy. Didn't really work out that way. There didn't seem to be as much connection between Jane and her as there was between Jane and the witch lady.
Yeah.
Like, they seem to really just be like looking at each other all the time, like,
yeah,
and not like out of lust, but just out of admiration for mutual scumbaggery.
Well, it's like, in that instance, it's like Jane sees through her and she sees through Jane, and then so Jane is revealed at the end. It's being emotional. It's like, you're in pain. It's like, yeah. Here it's just like, hey, you're good at your job, and she's like, you're pretty good at your job too.
You're almost as good as me, but we're both narcissistic lunatics. I'll never think you're better than me, even though you beat me in the end pretty easily and obviously. It's like, leave the key, and you're free to go.
Yeah. We have Rick Bergman as Jim's business partner, and he's sleeping with Catherine, the ex-wife. Then we come back to another.
Why she's such a warm person. It's like, I love you. Please let me wrap my arms around.
I don't know. It's like that real small circle of stuff. Like, this is the wrong podcast, but I'll tell you something. Like, we talk about F1 stuff. So usually I don't care about like the behind the scenes personal stuff, but there is a pretty crazy thing that like how small a circle F1 circle is, and it's just full of rich people. So there was a Russian driver, Daniel Kvyat, and he was a Red Bull guy, and he was married to the daughter of Nelson Piquet, who is a Brazilian race car driver who won a championship in F1. They had a kid together, and then they divorced. And so now Max Verstappen, who's also a Red Bull driver, that's his girlfriend currently.
The girlfriend's club. Take one down, pass it around.
Well, was another part
like that too.
Well, it was funny thing. There's another guy talking about it, and like the way he put it is like Max Verstappen is such a he's such a competitive person that he like fucked this guy's wife just to get one over on him.
Yeah,
which that's not what it is. It just means no, this place is just so small. The only people that they can rate to is other rich people who are in race car, the race F1 circle. So
yeah, you're not going to bring the waitress home to that. It's like yeah pick this gal up at I met her at the library. Reading. It's like no.
But I remember also people used to, because, Max Verstappen, he started in F1 when he was 18, so he was so young, but he was so committed to F1, that's all he did, and the drivers used to make fun of him because he didn't have a girlfriend. It's like, well, he's doing his fucking job.
Yeah, he's pretty focused on this whole driving the car fast. You need lots of women and drugs in your life to really confuse the issue, because that's what long careers are made of. So, yeah, anyway.
Anyways, back to
this guy like hugging a block of ice, which would be what that woman's character would be like. So,
but yeah, they're just like in this moment. Yes, it's just kind of like they have motive to kill Jim, but it ends up not being that way. There was a fun where Mr. Bergman there just like sends off Rigsby by like this conversation's over, and he's just like over. I'm not going to incriminate myself. But he doesn't take him. But they come back to Jane talking to Dr. What was her name? Dr. Brooke Harper. But then he reveals her past, says it's Lindsay Smith. And basically describes her child and everything. And then she sneaks out under the influence of Jane because he leaves the key and he says get away in between sentences. But what's weird here is we reveal that her name's Lindsay Smith, but for the rest of the episode they only refer to her as Brooke Harper and still calling her a doctor too, even though they know that's not true. So that's super weird. I don't know, I feel like either the Lindsay Smith thing is also a misdirect where it's it's still not her.
Yeah. Or it's the 7th day of shooting, and they're like, line. Okay, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it could be that too. Or they just like the name Brooke Harper better than they like Lindsay Smith. Because
that sounds like every girl that probably one of these writers lusted after at some point. Someone with a name like that. Because
it seems like at the end of the episode they're going to bring her back at some point, but we'll see. There's been a couple of those we'll bring her back, and it hasn't happened, but we'll see.
Well, there's still 8 seasons to go.
Yeah. So I have her as Smith, but I guess I'll call her Harper now. Brooke. Whatever. Brooke sneaks out under the influence of Jane, and then by telling the cop he has a bad uniform, and just gets out of there.
That dresses him down like she's some kind of military drill instructor. It's like, yeah, that cop's going to be put off by that, but whatever.
I wrote down here something like, "Yay, Lisbon hates people," because the train station is where they're going to end up, and Lisbon just commenting how there's just too many people there, and she comments on it twice, so that there's too many people. It's like, yay, Lisbon hates people too. So we have Stuart Hansen shows up. That's the guy in the wheelchair. Smith has a gun on him. I guess no, Harper or Brooke has a gun on him. And here I wrote CBI still calling her Brooke Harper. But then it turns out Stuart is not a paraplegic, and Stuart is also a con man. As she finds they're making a thing that bank deposit box wouldn't be good enough to hide the money, nor
any safety deposit boxes and overseas accounts, names attached to it, and maybe the government can't figure that out. but divorce lawyers will figure that out because they're getting a percentage, so they're motivated by it. But yeah, I know that is true. You don't put anything in safety deposit box anymore because you have to present a name.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and that changed after 9/11, I think, because we don't do numbered account things in America with our banks, so you have to have a name attached to it, and they'll just find anything with your name attached to it. And if you present a false ID, then the bank knows about it. Then whatever you put in that box becomes the property of the bank. Like, I don't know who you are. That's a fake.
But here it's just basically like it's a locker at a train station, which is basically a safety deposit box, but you don't have to declare what's in it, I guess, or whatever. Yeah, this is where she pulls out the giant bag of money, but it kind of gets shuffled to the side, and there's kind of a triple standoff between Stewart and Brooke and all of that stuff, and they arrest them all, right? Yeah, they arrest them all. Okay.
She tries to walk confidently past the arrest, but it doesn't work. I'll tell you what, that walking confidently with looking straight ahead and like you know where you're going, that works a lot.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised what you can get away with that confident walk. It's like, he's supposed to be here. Okay, yeah. Anyway, it didn't work in this case.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, like, what do they call that? Where it's like when you it's what hackers use. I forget what it's called. But it's like when you just manipulate people, but not like an actual physical thing, but it's just social manipulation.
Yeah.
It's like, a bright vest and a clipboard will just get you through like 90% of security in anywhere in the world. And
I've used these techniques myself. That's why I recognize them. I know, and I don't do it because I'm a criminal or something. I just like, can I get away with this? It's like, wow. All right, time to go back to work.
We have this fun scene where like Stewart's like, "How'd you find me out?" And it's like, apparently like Jane, throughout his entire life, he checks the bottoms of people's shoes who are wheelchair bound to see if they're scuffed. And that's how he tells them whether they're paraplegic or not. And he's like, this is the first time it's ever panned out.
Yeah, I like it that it's finally paid off.
Yeah, it's just...
I think crippled people are lying to me, getting money from the government they don't deserve. But
I just love that it's a detail where, like, it's just this thing he does, but it's never been useful until one time. It's like, okay, yeah, it's a very Jane thing. It's not...
He did quirky mentalist thing, too.
But it's not something where it's just like Jane magically knows it. It's just like something he's been doing the whole time. Just...
Yeah, he's this weirdo observer guy, and it's like, oh, this finally worked out for me. But I've always noticed this about everyone. But now it paid off. I knew.
And then at the end, some FBI guy comes to pick up Brooke Harper, and they're still calling her Brooke Harper. And then she tries to throw him off, but then Jane's like, "No, it's actually her." But then he's like suggesting that she's going to break out about whatever jail they're going to put her in for impersonating a doctor or whatever crimes that they convict her for.
All kinds of crimes because they know about her past. So it's like if they know about your past, you're not that good. It's like if they know all your aliases and everything about you and have a birth certificate, you're not doing your job right. But whatever. It's a convenience thing.
Yeah. So then in our third show, we have Miami Vice, Season 1, Episode 21, Evan, original air date May 3rd, 1985, NBC Friday. Crockett and Tubbs joined forces with the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, including Crockett's old partner, Evan Freed. Tubbs tries to understand their troubled relationship. Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Paul Diamond, and directed by Rob Cohen, which we had before.
Yes.
That's the original Fast and Furious. Well, not the original, the 2000 Fast and Furious guy. And also Triple X and Stealth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It opens up with basically just a music video of a guy shooting two fully automatic Mac-10s at some mannequins. So it's pretty...
Very 80s, like, techno mannequin.
Yeah. Some Peter Gabriel playing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But also, like, I don't know, the other Rob Cohen one, like, he had a really cool opening with, like, the pallets of money being set on fire. So, good openings in both of his episodes.
Yeah, this is one of the most, what I think of Miami Vice episodes.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of violence, but it's like a lot of artful violence. and
Yeah.
you know, choreographed with music and crazy dangerous people, and then the cops. And,
Yeah.
um,
Also, I wrote down like, "Hey, you parked your car pretty near those targets," and that guy's just waving Mac 10s around.
yeah, it's like none of those bullets are gonna bounce back. Or nah, just fire away.
We have Zito and Sidekick go in for the bust, and then Evan here like is in like oh, was that just a Cadillac or something?
Yeah,
like
it's big Cadillac,
Yeah.
big Cadillac's limousine.
yeah, because it looks like
not the long limousines, but like the extended back limousines.
it kind of looks like it has like a third window. It's like it's just
Yeah,
a bit longer, but not that much longer. He rams a car and the car explodes of some other undercover cops apparently that we've never
I
seen before.
always love the cars that explode. That's a very 80s thing.
Especially with the Cadillac being completely fine.
Yeah, not covered in flame. It's like, why did that car explode? Like, what would be the reason given? Not the real reason that it was special effects. It's like, oh, because you breached the gas tank onto some hot surface, but yet the Cadillac not engulfed in flames.
We also have like it's kind of weird, but it's visually interesting. You have Crockett and Tubbs just like on a roof. A roof. Sometimes it sounds like something like being like a dog, like a rough. So
They're on the rough. They're on the high side. Yeah.
They're on a roof with like kind of coordinating things. It's kind of like cool how it's shot, but like but also it gets them away from the situation, so he wouldn't immediately recognize like an old partner. So
yeah,
that makes sense. But then we go back to Miami Vice, their offices or whatever, the police department, and then they're like kind of like following leads on gun runners, and then they end up crossing paths. It's like I'll go tap my source with the neo-Nazi guy that sells guns under the table, and then Crockett goes undercover as a neo-Nazi, and he just
Sonny
like
Burnett, which is his nom de plume, undercover name.
It's just like this like warehouse basement with like Nazi flags all over the place, and then Crockett's just like, and this guy just has this where standouts with guns pop out and he shoots it, and it's like, and then like Crockett's like dressed up as like kind of it's like weird survivalist or whatever, like a blacked out hat and
the 80s militia guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they pretty much look like today's militia guys as well.
Yeah,
so,
they're not big on style. They kind
of yeah. And also this ridiculous character that Crockett is playing, it just seems like it's like, oh, these people never grow up. Like, these people exist today. And this is Crockett making fun of them, but like, no.
And they see that and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna wear that blacked out hat now because this guy's cool. And he's like, no, he's a weirdo. He's playing a weirdo and he's dealing with the dumb shit.
I feel like a lot of people who are fans of Miami Vice, this episode completely go over their head. So
probably, yeah. It's too multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
Or they're waiting. Is like, are the Nazis going to be the good guys? It's like, no, the Nazis are never the good guys. But,
well, so we were watching this on Stars, and for some reason this episode cut out, and I thought it was for rights reasons because of like the Pedro Gabriel songs. It's probably for some stuff like this, the neo-Nazi imagery, or just Nazi imagery, and probably some homophobic epithets later on, like that might have got picked out because of that, even though in the context of the show it's not being used in a derogatory, it's just kind of like explaining something that happened. So I don't know why, but and also maybe it's taken off Stars now, the entire series, because this is on Peacock now. So
I bought this season on DVD, so the entire run of Miami Vice on DVD for $20.
So Evan was there, I'm assuming.
Evan was there with all the music.
Yeah. Okay. So it's probably some other. Oh, it's weird because Peacock has like altered some, because Peacock has WWE stuff on there, and there's you can imagine they have their whole catalog, and you can imagine there's a lot of problematic things that WWE has put out there, and they have edited a lot of that stuff. So,
oh, okay.
It seems kind of weird that Stars edited or just chose not to show this, but NBC Peacock does. But anyways, yeah, and that just kind of gives him. He goes there and gets a line in on his source because he wants like multiple Mac 10s. And he's like, yeah, tap me into your source, and that's kind of all that whole scene is for. Because then they goes to, they end up finding Evan and then Guzman. That's the other guy.
Yeah.
So they go to show up him to pretend to be guys to like want to buy a bunch of Mac 10s for, whatever nefarious reason you want to. But yeah, they go there, and that's where you find out that like that Evan is the crazy gun runner, is a cop. He used to work with Crockett.
He's an ATF agent.
Yeah. Evan shows up at Crockett's boat to like hash things out, but he's like completely unhinged and suicidal apparently.
And he pulls a gun on him. It's like, come on, let's go, me and you.
And he's also pointing the gun at himself. And he's like, me, you. Suggesting they should have like an old school duel to the death.
Yeah, this guy's obviously not just playing a role.
And then Tubbs and Crockett have an argument over what's up with Evan because Crockett won't tell him, and then Tubbs like has Trudy do like a background report on like what's up with Evan, but they don't really get too much out of it. So then he's just questioning about it, and then Crockett gets mad. It's like, hey, don't go behind my back. He's like, well, you're not telling me anything.
Yeah, this is an interesting Crockett and Tubbs character development episode.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, these guys get angry at each other, and they draw lines, and it's like, oh, if you just want to be partners, that's 9 to 5. Like, it's come to my desk if you want something from me because we're not friends anymore. And he's like, fine, whatever. And they stick to that for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Then,
well, they have Tubbs and Crockett go back to like negotiate with Guzman, and then Evan acts even more suicidal because when the deal starts to break up, Guzman pulls a gun on him. And then Evan just walks up there and like cocks the hammer of the gun for him. He's like, hey, we're going to do this. And he's like smiling. It's like, okay, yeah, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we have the scene where Crockett goes and kind of like, hey, can we talk? And then Tubbs is like hitting on a woman and like decides to like leave that to go talk to Crockett. So then they end up at this gas station, which the trivia says this gas station still exists, but it's now a tire shop. And there's
I remember seeing that. Yeah,
there's no gas pumps, but yeah, because it's really interesting. Like it has like a weird like kind of castle of window things up top or whatever. I don't know how to describe it. Kind of looks like a fire hydrant, but with like those box glass things all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we find out Crockett talks about how it's Orgel, I think Orgel.
Yeah, Orgel. Yeah.
And Evan and him like went to the academy together. And so basically they're like thick as thieves. Well, cops. Yeah, same thing, whatever.
Miami cops in the 70s.
Then they had this assignment where basically they're looking for drugs that like went through like gay nightclubs. And then Orgel like asked to be taken off the assignment, and they were joking. It's like, "Well, you think someone would recognize you?" And then Orgel comes out to both of them, and they don't handle it well. Where like basically Crockett tries to pretend that the guy's not gay at all, and then Evan is like calling him being homophobic towards him, and then Evan
the F word that is referred to gay people, which you shouldn't say anymore because it's bad.
And then Evan even like gets assigned away from Vice or wherever they're working at the time, and then even the police department
put on a desk. Basically.
Yeah, they're just trying to push him out, and then at some point like Orgel is like just like at like a corner somewhere, and some PCB guy's like waving a gun, and then he just kind of just walks up to the guy, and it's basically like suicide by criminal instead of suicide by cop, and so it gets written up as like him being a hero, but like they all interpret it as he basically found a way to kill himself without killing himself.
Yeah.
And so this is both, and then Crockett's like haunted by this because basically he didn't support the guy whatsoever. He just wanted to pretend that he never existed, and then Evan felt that he drove this guy to like suicide. and by
Yeah,
criminal.
because Crockett was never mean to him. He was just indifferent.
Yeah.
Because that's what he was telling Tubbs. He's like, they don't teach you how to deal with this. And to us today, seeing this is like, oh, this is ridiculous. But this is like the 80s, right in the middle of AIDS and everything. And Ronald Reagan is president. And remember,
Yeah.
he famously it's like, well, you only get AIDS from living a dirty lifestyle. It's like that was considered like conventional thought back then. So this was kind of cool that they had this episode where it's like, yeah, this guy comes out to us as gay. I ignore him. Evan is a complete psycho to him. And the department's trying to fire him because he's gay. But they can't come out and say that back then. But they can definitely shun him.
I mean, what you expect out of an 80s shows to like have no sympathy towards gay people pretty much whatsoever. There'd just be like a joke or like, yeah, just be a joke or someone to like be shoved aside. Now here we don't have like a gay person to actually like act against. It's just like the idea of it. So they kind of get away with it, but it's like a far more sympathetic, way more than I expect out of a show in the 80s. They did a pretty good job here, I expect.
Especially an action cop show, which is all macho. This whole show is shooting people and driving boats and having sex with beautiful ladies. And it's like, no, they're sad. These guys are all torn up because their partner, who came out as gay, basically killed himself because they couldn't deal with that. Which guys from, I mean, I assume like, well, Crockett was in Vietnam and then he was a cop, and it's like, yeah, men back then did not deal with stuff like that. That was, gay people were something you saw on TV. It's like, oh, that's weird. It's not something.
We also have this moment where it's like Evan and Crockett kind of like embrace a bit, like kind of because Evan is like drunk and out of his mind and like just looking to die. And he wants Crockett to like forgive him for it. And so it's like weirdly, it's like what you call now, this would be an episode that's like giving a look at toxic masculinity. Then it would, they're going for the same thing. I don't know whether they even refer to it, but it'd be like masculinity being, masking your feelings and basically just bottling up inside, and that not being a good thing, which is probably, not what you expect out of a show.
Yeah, it's unusual for the time. It's like, here the tough guy stuff, like got a guy killed who was otherwise a decent human being, and he was because these two guys are torn up about it. Like, Crockett doesn't want to talk about it, and Evan just wants to die because of it. Like, it's for all his bluff and blunder, he's really just hates himself because he did this or led this guy to this action.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is considered one of the best episodes of Miami Vice just for character development, because everyone's character develops in this a little bit. You view everyone differently after this.
Yeah.
Because you realize it's like, oh, these guys just aren't the ultimate badasses. It's like, even though they probably shot 20 people and killed them, it's like they still have some feelings.
Yeah, they're affected by things.
What was the thing in True Lies? It's like, yeah, I killed a lot of people, but they were all bad people, but this guy wasn't one of them, so... it basically destroys this one guy's life.
Then they have the final kind of like handoff between Guzman and Crockett and Tubbs acting as arms dealers or buyers. And I wrote down like that helicopter pilot must have fantastic eyes to know to show up when he like wiggle his cane around at night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably coincidental, but like in the way it shows, it makes it seem like the helicopter pilot only showed up when he waved his cane, and then like the sound of the helicopter only existed till he waved his cane. I mean, they're also late to the drop offs. Maybe they're just unusually coordinating this thing. But
flying a helicopter around at night in some abandoned shipyard. It's like, oh, were they using GPS? Well, no, they weren't using that. Did they have night vision? Well, it was be as big as a truck, but yeah, it was kind of silly but cool at the same time.
It's there for the visuals. They have the guns and they're in a helicopter. It's kind of interesting.
It's Miami Vice. It's all style over substance.
Yeah. And then like they have the cops come in and bust them, and like it's kind of weird seeing like all the Vice cops in like normal cop uniforms.
Yeah, you don't see Switek and Zito and what's her name, Jane or
Gina and Trudy.
Yeah, they're like dressed up as police, which they don't make convincing uniformed police officers because, the guys some of them have 3 days growth, and and Trudy and Gina are just like too hot to
Yeah.
be cops like that.
But also, like, I didn't know what they were doing at first, but then it's like kind of funny later on. Is like they play it off as like they're dirty cops, like they just come and take the money and guns and leave, like, and like keeping the cover of Crockett and Tubbs intact. It's like, and then even Guzman, and then even Guzman's like, it's like, what's the world come to when you can't even trust American cops to be moral?
Yeah, I can't believe the American, because they have a line in there about when at the second buy attempt when Evan goes crazy and cocks Guzman's gun. He's like, yeah, go ahead and shoot me. You did this in Banana Land all the time. You shoot people if they were left-handed down there. It didn't matter. You just kill me. And so Guzman comes to America because he thinks that it's better here. And it's like, oh, even the cops are corrupt. I'm so disappointed.
But yeah,
and that Guzman guy was also in Scarface. I recognize from that.
Was this like Al Israel or something? I think that's his name.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Stand-in.
But then they kind of like leave both their ways, and then Crockett kind of makes a threat that's like, hey, our money's missing. Like, we're gonna come looking for you. And then they just kind of walk both their ways, and then Guzman grabs a gun out of the side door of the car, and then Evan kind of jumps in front of the gun, but like in a weird way that it's not him jumping in front of the bullet. He's just staying in the way. And then Crockett grabs his like backup gun that's a 45, and then Tubbs just got his 38. He's good, and they just
his 38s are fine.
And then
especially at 100 yards, plays away.
And then like the Guzman's bodyguard just kind of disappears, and then Guzman,
I always wondered like, what's that guy doing? He's just like running.
And Guzman dies in a really dramatic fashion, where he's basically just like kept in the door. Yeah. That's kind of fun. I don't know.
It's I've seen.
Although the way the window is like shot open, it just like it seems like it's like okay, the angle of which you've shot them, they're not like the way that bullets are shown and make a shot like they're shot at a 45-degree angle or whatever, but not straight on. But whatever, I imagine they rigged up the door, and then when they close it, but it's fine, whatever.
No, it's listed as errors in the goofs and errors section of like, they were shooting from a totally different angle. That window would only explode if they shot through his body and somehow it bounced off a bone and went that way. It's like, it's Miami Vice. It's 80s TV.
Yeah, it's also like, it's TV. It's like we can't do resets. Like we get one shot at this. Like what's the easiest way to do it?
Like Kennedy assassination reconstruction or something.
And I bet it's something where it's like they had the door angled towards the camera so you can't see the window straight on because the squib is probably just right there, and then the squib goes off, and then you close the window, and then you don't even know the squib's there. So in one way it works, and another way it doesn't. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect it's just one thing. Just pointing.
No, it's something the psychonaut would notice and write the error section that then I would read. But I just watched the episode like, oh, okay. But some people.
But Evan is dying, and Crockett comes up there, and he's not putting pressure on the wound or anything. He's just like letting him die. But there he basically like passes off a curse onto Crockett, where it's like, I took the bullet for you. It's your turn next.
I like that. His dying words was like, what is this? Portent. It's like, these are my dying words. I pass this. You, it's like, go to hell, goodbye. It's like, that's not what he said, but it's what it sounded like.
Hopefully Crockett finds the courage to forgive himself. But that's kind of what the whole scene where he's talking to Tubbs about the whole situation at the gas station. That's him kind of absolving himself.
Tubbs kind of provides absolution for him. It's like, well, you didn't know what to do. Hell, he's sort of like, because Tubbs immediately becomes like the New York guy again. Like, you didn't know what the hell to do. What are you doing? What are you gonna do?
They don't teach you how to treat the gay friends you don't know are gay in the academy. Especially with only 3 months of training or whatever you got.
You're just off some battlefield in Vietnam into the academy, and then here's some guy like, I'm gay. It's like, oh no, what do I do?
after not knowing it for like 3 years or whatever. So.
What do I do in the 80s America?
If I know a gay person, what's that say about me? It's like nothing.
If I know a gay person. It's just guilt by association.
Yeah.
Do I have AIDS? Nancy, Nancy, what do you think?
That's how ridiculous people were back then. So.
Oh yeah, it was. You think it's dumb now?
Which is why it's stunning how well it's dealt with in this episode.
yeah, that's the way why this episode stands out. Is what did it say? Did this get nominated for Emmy or what? It says it's like it's the most sympathetic portrayal of gay identity and ideas ever on TV at that time. And that's just 1985. This isn't 1931. And by today's standards, it would almost be like.
And this is the
character.
And this is the cool guy macho show. This isn't just some drama. Like,
this isn't some doctor show or. Yeah. None of these people are ambiguous about their sexuality or why they would struggle with this other guy being gay. It's like, oh no, these guys are totally straight. They're shooting people. They're bedding down beautiful women and long, music montages, which, I don't know who has sex with long music montages. It seems to happen a lot in Miami.
It usually leads to somebody's death.
Yeah, and somebody dies. It's like guns are also being shot off tonight.
But this is the penultimate episode, so we only have one more episode of Miami Vice, and we have 2 more of the other shows. So,
yeah.
Which is it seems like a lot of shows are 23 episodes, so I imagine Miami Vice was probably cut down by 1 episode because the shows cost so much to make. So
yeah, this is a very expensive show to make in the 80s.
But I don't actually know, but I'm just assuming that.
Oh no, Miami Vice was very expensive. That's why people were surprised how long it lasted, because just they had I think it had the biggest music budget of any TV show at that time.
Yeah, you pointed that out. Well, I remember that there's that thing about Lost where it's like one of its thing where the guy who greenlit it got fired because of how expensive Lost was, but then it was like one of their biggest shows. And they're like, even after they fired the guy.
Oh yeah, he got bank on that too because his name was attached as producer. He wasn't even working for him. He was getting a check. And then
that gets their number. It's ABC's #1 show, and they all have to pretend like, yeah, we knew this was a great show. It's like, no, you didn't. You had no faith in it.
Yeah, we were so confident that we fired the people in charge, and then hired other people and let them run it. Wasn't Lost the start of J.J. Abrams?
Not the start. Like he got his start. Oh, do you remember the show? Well, you probably don't remember. The show Felicity is where he got his start.
Oh, well, this is where he made bank though.
Because Alias is his second show.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember Alias?
Vaguely, we watched it for this or for something, not this show.
Oh yeah,
we watched some episodes of Alias.
We did.
Yeah, because we were talking about J.J. Abrams. This was on Greed Factory, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because we were trying to do because I couldn't find Felicity, but for some reason I could watch Alias.
Oh, okay.
It was back in the old on-demand day. That ancient history. But yeah. I always thought of J.J. Abrams became like, oh, if you attach his name to it, it makes money because of Lost.
Yeah. I mean, from Lost onwards, that's when he became huge. That's where start putting him on everything. And then Disney really started trusting because Disney is ABC. They own ABC. Yeah. So,
and that worked out good. I mean, it really paid off a big franchise by the Star Wars.
I mean, they all made money, but just nobody likes them now.
I mean, they were entertaining, for their time in the theater. Well, I don't know. I've only seen the 2. So.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to see the third one, but I'd love for you to see the third one. Oh, I don't want to hear you well, hey, maybe you'll find a way to like it, but I yeah.
Based on everything, I mean, I couldn't say anything worse than the people on Red Letter Media. So based on what they said, it's like, okay, I'm not watching this.
Yeah, sometimes I don't watch their stuff until I've seen it because they're too influential.
Yeah.
And there's so many times where I see them have an opinion on it, and it's like, oh man, they're so right. Like, look at the work they did to say how terrible this thing is. But they say lots of things are terrible, and then I watch it, and I'm like, it's fine. But now I don't like it because now there's this. They did this research against it.
Well, things I care about that I want to see and just go in cold. Yeah, I don't watch those episodes.
Yeah.
Things I don't give a shit about, like the Star Wars Skywalker trilogy. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll listen to them because I'm not gonna.
Well, also like them and Star Wars as like they're great at evaluating Star Wars. So
yeah, that's their magic.
yeah,
That's where they became famous.
yeah. So.
And for feuding with William Shatner on Twitter, which is great, by the way. If you can start a feud with William Shatner on Twitter, do it.
And they didn't even do it. It was their fans thinking they're working on their behalf, and they weren't. It's like, he's an old man. Don't bother him.
Completely artificially generated, but looked genuine.
Yeah.
And what are you going to say to William Shatner at this point, and why? He's going into space for real.
Yeah.
And he's like 90. He's having a great time. He's riding horses. Whatever. William Shatner lived his best life.
Yeah.
And he's still alive.
Yep.
Don't count him out. Star Trek is dead, but he's still alive.
I mean, I like Lower Decks, and I like Prodigy, which is Lower Decks is meant for me. Prodigy is not, but it's good for a kid's show. Also, the ship is really cool. The ship looks like the Voyager ship mixed with the spaceship from Flight of the Navigator.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, you really got to see the first one. That's all you really need to see.
Yeah.
Just
there's all kinds of things I need to watch on a list, and yet it's like, oh, 2001: A Space Odyssey, 50-year retrospective. Yeah, let's watch that. 'Cause no one's talking about that, but I'm gonna watch that.
I tried watching the first episode of the new season of Discovery, and it's like, clean slate. Let's see it, and I just couldn't do it. I scrubbed watched it, and I just got to the end, and it's like, man, I don't know why this doesn't work.
The thing that fooled me, I got so blindsided, was Picard. It's like, I can't wait for this. One of my favorite Star Trek characters. This is going to be good. There's a second season. I don't care.
Oh,
you could drag me behind a train, and I won't watch it.
Is that second season out?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I know they're making it. Okay.
I'm not watching it.
Yeah, I stopped watching like 3 episodes in.
You burned me on that. I mean, I had an inside track on that show. I know people who worked on that show. And it was like, I can't wait for this. I'm hearing all this cool stuff. People are showing me stuff on my phones I'm not supposed to see. This is great. And then it came out, and I was like, oh, fuck life. I'm not, I'm not watching.
Starfleet, those people that are racist against androids and unreasonable.
Stupid. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Someone's going to yell the F word at Picard. It's like, great. The Admiral's yelling the F word. How edgy.
We made a character from Voyager gay. It's the future. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I don't care what he's doing. She's doing. It's whatever. Do it. Great. It's like, it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care about people's sex. I want sexless fiction.
Yeah.
I want men and women working together, drinking coffee, solving problems, and then going home and reading a book. I don't care about what kind of sex they're having. Because you know what? In my real life, in the real world I live in, I don't ask about people's sex lives. And guess what? They don't tell me. Because I don't want to know. Because it doesn't matter.
And I'm not putting a camera in their bedroom.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not making money off this. I'm not staring into someone's eyes. So stare deeply into their eyes. That's like, you know who does that? Crazy people.
Yeah.
That's who's really doing that. So yeah, I just want sexless fiction. I want 1930s detectives that like, yeah, this dame is really hot, but they don't have sex with her. It's like, you want to come to my place, Jimmy? No, there's a trail of corpses behind you. You think I'm stupid? I'm going to go home and drink whiskey like a real detective and talk about my ex-wife, who I'm also not going to describe having sex with. It's weird. Nathan's sexless fiction.
No, I agree. That's always... well, especially with Star Trek, it just comes out of nowhere. It's like, we get the idea people have sex, but like to make it a power show to try to make it edgy.
It's one thing I always appreciated about Star Trek. I mean, we knew like Spock in the original series had to go back to Vulcan for his once a 7-year sex, or his head would explode or something. It's like, okay, cool, but I don't need to see it. It doesn't even be talked about.
And there's always like weird sex stuff with Data, where it's like, well, you've had a penis to you, and then you have sex with Tasha Yar, but it was just like almost like a homework assignment. It wasn't this. It wasn't like this sultry thing.
People like taking notes. Like, how that works, and it looks right. It looks the same. It's golden, but it's like, do we dwell on it for 20 episodes?
And it's like, you don't have to put that, like, it's like you don't have to put the thing in the show. You have fanfic. That stuff exists. There's a holodeck on the Enterprise. Of course, people are having orgies on the holodeck.
Oh, constantly.
But we're just not pointing the camera at it.
I mean, I'd probably be more like Worf, but more of like a medieval theme. but with the mortality fail-safes completely engaged, because I know I'd fall off that fucking horse. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have holodeck sex, because it's like, well, this is a fantasy also, but not a very interesting one. Human bodies fit together so many ways. There's so many different ways you can do it. There's nothing interesting about it after. I don't know. Maybe it's my age. It's just after a while, it's like, oh God, can I just have some toast, just some coffee with this flavor in it I like.
But no, it's just this thing with like when they want to make a show edgy. It's like, we'll have people swear, we'll have more violence, and we'll throw some sex in there, and then it's just all superfluous. It doesn't add anything to the show whatsoever. So. And now, if the show starts that way, I mean, like Red Shoes Diaries was about like somebody looking for his girlfriend who's having lots of sex. That's fine. That's what the show is.
Yeah, I mean, if Sex in the City was just about a bunch of sexless women who just wax philosophically about the beauty of living in New York, that would be a really weird show. It's like, where's the sex in this city? But yeah, it's...
Right, like True Blood, like that's what that show was, sex and violence. So I'm not going to knock points off for being about sex and violence, but when it's like, oh, it's Star Trek, it's about like a human and alien coming together and like searching the galaxy for meaning through science and stuff, and then like now people are just shooting each other ahead and having sex all over the place, not because it's like a great eternal purpose, but it's just because that'll get views.
And the thing is, you have 50 years of television behind you that shows, hey, the Star Trek formula works like this, and people love it. You can do. We've done this for. No, we got to start like incinerating people and pulling their eyes out and screwing, and it's like, what are we doing?
And like, and once again, like I said, you can do all that. Just put it in the mirror universe.
Yeah.
And then have a normal ass Star Trek show otherwise.
I mean, sex and fiction for me, when it's not supposed to be there, is like it's like if Hellraiser became sexy or something. It's like, what are you doing? Like, this is not. And Hellraiser was about sex in a way.
Yeah.
Like really, really weird, like crazy stuff, and that's what you expected. But you don't expect it in like Picard.
Yeah.
It's just I'm gonna pull people apart and then kill people and then have lesbian relationships. It's like, okay, unnecessary. Uninteresting, weird, substitute for real writing, substitute for real storytelling. It's like, look, sex. It's like, oh, you've run out of ideas, right? Sex is some wild new concept that no one's ever heard of. There's only like 8 billion people on the planet because no one knows about sex. We're going to talk about this. Space sex.
Anyways.
Yeah, if you like what you've heard.
And how couldn't you? You're listening to this podcast somehow, but we're on anchor.fn/Verhoeven Effect, or if you're not using a Chrome browser, you can use verhoeveneffect.com. Still don't know what that's about. Anyways, you can rate our podcast. You can rate it whatever you want, but the only thing we listen to is you give us 5 stars or whatever the highest thing is, and give us a comment. Just say you listen to this while working, or it gets you through your workday, because people love to hear that. We at anchor.fn/Verhoeven Effect. You can support us through listener support. There's 3 tiers at 99 cents per month, $4.99 or $9.99. We're also at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. I just put out when these episodes come out. But if you subscribe, you'll get them automatically. You can subscribe to us on Spotify or whatever podcast service you want to use. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're pretty much all over the place. Also hijacked by weird Russian things. Not hijacked. There's weird things like where you put in like your podcast into Google, you'll find weird places where it's like it's playing our podcast, but in some place I didn't put it there because there's just bots that go out there and then put it on their own page because whatever page it's putting it to, like they have like advertisements on there, so they're like, but no one's searching for a podcast. So
so they're not going to take us out of context and make us like the voice of the Russian invasion.
No, they're just looking for advertising dollars anyway.
Yeah, it's always money. It's never some groovy machination of evil.
You also find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. We also have another podcast, American Greed Factory. We have American Greed Factory on YouTube, where you can watch both this show and that show live and unedited. We also have T-shirts for right now, the American Greed Factory. But I'll have a Verhoeven one when I am not scared enough to imagine all the mistakes I made and just make it. We have T-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. You also find me at twitch.tv/Greed Factory, or right now I'm playing puzzles and podcasts, where I play Tetris and listen to other people's podcasts. It's the kind of low effort content that everybody can get behind. And then hopefully next week I'll have the first episode of Bought and Never Played, at least on Twitch. We've done it on YouTube, but now we're going to do it for Twitch, where I play Dragon Age Inquisition.
Okay.
Which as you can see, I've never opened it.
That's cool. It's still in the wrapper.
And I will not open it because it is available for download for free on Game Pass Ultimate. So,
okay.
So I'll keep it in the wrapper.
And sell it on eBay for $600.
Nah, I wish.
Well, in 30 years.
Yeah, sure. Why not? The way I like to remember how to spell Verhoeven is Verho, Verho, and then even at the end, Verhoeven Effect. So this has been the Verhoeven Effect. I'm Conlon.
I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.